Smitty, Breece Hall was put on the PUP, Smitty. Why are we talking about him again? Smitty, I heard he ran pretty fast today at practice for being a PUP guy, Smitty.
All of you concerned Caleb's and petrified Peters out there that came crawling into the live stream yesterday saying, Smitty, are we worried about this Breece Hall? I had people crawling into my DMs after the show, just crawling up to the comment line and saying, Smitty, in the YouTube videos too, in the comments saying, Smitty told you. Told me what? What'd you tell me, Bob? What'd you tell me? Did you even watch the video? You didn't read the room. You walked into the room and said, Smitty told you. Told me what? You told me that Breece Hall is going to be a monster in 2023? Because that's what the video was about yesterday, pal. And we're back today because Breece Hall ran 23 miles per hour today in practice on the PUP, active PUP, mind you. Look at this monster in the making. Okay? We're going through it all right now. Live on the show. Appreciate you. File on in, hit that like button. Let's go.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
So we've got a little Breece Hall news to discuss once again. I know everybody's like, Smitty, we just talked about this. We sure did. But we're back again because we have new news, important news, amazing news. Breece Hall running 23 miles per hour today in practice as all of the Breece Hall haters and doubters out there are sprinkling their little 2 cents in, saying, Smitty, the PUP list. I told you. We're worried about Dalvin Cook. I told you. This guy is going to be a monster and a force in 2023. Now Salah did come out, head coach of the New York Jets, saying that they're going to do right by Breece. They want to make sure they don't rush him along and put him in a vulnerable position. But running 23 miles per hour, cutting is a whole different ball game. And there's a lot of mental preparedness that is involved in an ACL recovery season. There's a lot that goes on. But what you didn't see happening with Barkley, his first year back from an ACL recovery, what you didn't see happening with J.K. Dobbins was getting out there and looking like his old self. Maybe he's not cutting the exact way you want him to cut. Maybe he's not cutting 100% because he's trying to get his body used to cutting, and the communication between the brain and the knee needs to be reestablished in a speedy fashion. People don't realize that when you suffer an ACL tear on the back of this knee model, you can see at the middle of the knee, there's the ACL and PCL that cross over, and that keeps the stability of the knee from going forward and backward and slipping off of the other joint here like a shelf. Without the ACL and MCL, this knee would go back and forth and essentially rip all these other ligaments. The ACL and the PCL are for stability and tightness of the joint. And when you tear that, you are severing the connection in your knee in a sense, and it takes time to get that back to where you're running in your brain, and you do this without even thinking, but you say, I'm going to cut, and your body's a little behind where your brain is, and you have to reestablish a new connection between the brain and the knee. There's a lot of mental hurdles that you get over, but Breece Hall's clearly already over so many of those hurdles. There's footage of him out there literally cutting, running. And if you remember back, the difference between Breece Hall and Barkley, and why I'm so all over drafting Breece Hall this offseason coming off the ACL tear versus when I said stay away from Barkley. Number one, Barkley was going top 5. Barkley was going top 5. There was no baked in risk at all. Breece Hall is going in the 3rd round in many cases, especially coming off of yesterday's news that Breece Hall was being put on the PUP list. Jets placed Breece Hall knee on the active PUP list, which is not a concern. It's like playing chess with your roster and having more time to evaluate other players in buying time. It's like a chess move, you know, for teams to use the active PUP when they can to get as many looks at players as they can and make decisions on the roster. He's out there doing things. It's the active PUP. Nothing changes. Look at him out there cutting, working out, catching footballs, running, getting clocked at 23 miles per hour. The fact that the PUP, term was used yesterday, it had people DMing me in droves saying, Smitty, what do we do now? What do we do now, Smitty? So this was my favorite one. It drives me nuts, but it also gets me so excited because the knee-jerking, reactive Rodgers out there are going to make Breece fall to the third round. Although this news today might counterbalance and wash out that effectiveness in terms of, people being overreactive. But I had people yesterday, it was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed. When someone does something that embarrasses you and it's them that did it? I was embarrassed reading some of these messages.
Smitty, so I guess we misjudged the Breece Hall situation.
That was from, let's call him John. John, you should really be ashamed of yourself. Your mother is embarrassed of you. DMing another grown man saying,
I think we made a mistake drafting Breece Hall, didn't we, Smitty? Now what do we do? How do we adjust and adapt, Smitty? What are we going to do?
You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. Breece Hall, the active PUP means nothing. Even Pacheco's being talked about as being thrown on it. And Pacheco said this today. He said he will absolutely be ready for week 1. Pacheco is going to be an absolute monster in 2023. PUP doesn't mean anything. It's the reserve PUP right before week 1. If you land on that list, then you are probably missing 4 weeks, right? That's how that works. Okay, it's not 6 weeks. It's not probably. You are. If you're on the reserve PUP list, you walk into the season on the PUP, you miss the first 4 weeks of the season. I say probably because you could miss more, but you can come off after 4 weeks. But your mandatory 4-game, you're missing 4 of them if you go on that list. That is a different list. People don't know what they're saying. They're just regurgitating what they hear. Breece Hall went on the PUP, Smitty. Are we? Here's another one that I got yesterday that was embarrassing to read. Okay?
Smitty, do we go in a different direction now?
No, you don't go in a different direction, Bob. If anything, you're going to get him in the third round locked and loaded instead of sometimes having to flirt with late second round ADP value, Bob. Getting Breece Hall as your third drafted player is night and day more advantageous than getting him as your second drafted player. I mean, this goes without saying. Getting clocked at 23 miles per hour, do you notice anything different about this recovery than Saquon Barkley's recovery? Do you notice anything different? Yeah, you should, because it's July 20. He's out there cutting. He's out there running. He's out there getting clocked at 23 miles per hour. And so when you ask yourself, and this is the other favorite one I get from I don't know, spreadsheet Scotty.
Smitty, this is why I told you, Smitty, you didn't listen to me.
In my comments of my video where I literally tell you not to panic, he doesn't read the room. He doesn't watch the video. He thinks my video's saying, I believe that Tommy was right, or scared Scotty or spreadsheet Scotty was correct. He doesn't even watch the video. He just thinks my video is saying I confirmed Scotty was correct the entire time. Scotty comments,
told you, Smitty. Told you, Smitty. You just don't draft running backs coming off of catastrophic injuries, especially ACL tears, ever.
And there is a rhyme and reason to that theory. If you avoid drafting players that come off catastrophic and season-ending injuries, especially ACLs, you will more times than not avoid drafting a player that's going to disappoint you. But who's to say you can't, in calculated fashion, be like, oh, I'm going to not draft most of them, but when there's a glaring upside like Breece Hall's, I'm going to circle back in and draft him. I'm going to land this more than that player would, or that owner would, if he's tried to nitpick at it and find what players to believe in, what players not to believe in, because I've done this for 20 plus years professionally. And I'm telling you right now, there is a stark difference between what this man's doing on the field and what Barkley was doing on the field before his week 1 outing. There's a stark difference between what this guy's doing on the field than what Javonte's doing on the field. I love Javonte and Breece Hall almost near equally walking into 2023. They were both top 5 running backs in our minds. They were both guys that could win you a league, and they both suffered catastrophic, unpredictable ACL tears. And it was a shame. We recovered. We did amazing in our community with the late drafting players, the Damian Pierces, the Kenneth Walkers, the Jalen Hurts in round 6 and 7, the Joseph Smoking Burrows in round 6 and 7. We cleaned up last year. I can only imagine how many of you would have won Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty best ball tournaments if you had Breece Hall and Javonte Williams in your lineups all year. But it is what it is, and we're here to come back and rectify and right the wrongs of last season. No matter if they were our fault or not, we take ownership of it. We say Breece Hall got injured on our watch and it's okay. We're going to evaluate this process case by case. And guess what happens when you look at an ACL recovered player? You look at 3 components. You don't just come in like Bob and scared Scotty and go,
or you just stay away from him, and it's all you do. You just sit scared in your corner, you shiver, and you say, I'm not going near any of these ACL recovering players, Smitty. It petrifies me.
Like the petrified Peter that I am. You can do that if you want. Go in your corner and shiver and get scared all you want. I'm here to tell you the formula. I'm here to tell you the formula. The formula is simple. It's preparedness is number 1, and that's about 70-80% of the whole thing. Is Breece Hall prepared? Is Breece Hall prepared? The answer is Breece Hall is prepared. Breece Hall is light years ahead of where Barkley was, who barely cut at all in shorts before week 1 kicked off. This guy is doing it in June. He was doing it last month. He was cutting last month. Now he's running 23 miles per hour. And because he got placed on the PUP list, people are freaking out and they're being petrified. In corners everywhere, just shivering and avoiding him at all costs. Well, maybe this counterbalances that. Maybe people say 23 miles per hour. Okay, everything I felt yesterday, I'm going to undo. And that could happen. But my guess is that a lot of this news impacts people a lot less than the PUP list, because the amount of DMs I got yesterday and the last 24 hours is just, it's exhausting. It's exhausting trying to explain it. I just stopped responding to some of them. I just point them to the link. Watch the video. Watch the video. Smitty, what do you think about Breece Hall? Watch the video. Hey, Smitty, I know you did a video on this, but what do you think of Breece Hall? Watch the video, Bob. Watch the video. I clearly explain what's going on. Okay, Smitty, I saw you like Breece Hall, but are you sure we like Breece Hall? Yes. I don't come out and just blow smoke up your rear end. I do videos for a reason. I do a whole show for a reason. Why are people asking me over and over do I really like Breece Hall? Okay, I saw your video. You like Breece Hall. And then you really like Breece Hall. But do we really like Breece Hall? Yes. We really, 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 really like Breece Hall, Bob. Does that answer the question for you? This guy's out there getting clocked at 23 miles per hour. Number 1 measurement for is this a running back you have faith in their first year back from an ACL tear? Preparedness. He's knocking preparedness out of the ballpark. Barkley did not. He didn't come close to it. I told you to stay away from Barkley. I told you to stay away from J.K. Dobbins. Their first year back from ACL damage. They weren't ready. The preparedness was not up to par. His is. How young is the player? He's as young as it gets. First year, he tore it mid-range through a little bit before mid-season, tore his ACL. He's as young as you can get in terms of recovering from an ACL, and he knocks that benchmark out of the park. And number 3, situation. Is the situation conducive to allow the player a little wiggle room as they ease back in? And is the coach going to ease them back in appropriately? And Salah is very clear about it. Here's this, even this right here says it, that they want week 1. They want him for week 1, but they are going to do right by him, meaning workload. And Salah said it today in a press conference. He said, he looks great. He's clocked at 23 miles per hour. He looks fantastic, but we are going to do right by him, meaning they're going to give him enough work and unleash him a little bit at a time. So I believe the answer to number 3 is situation. There is no better situation in the entire National Football League for Breece Hall to come back in, because he's got Aaron Rodgers keeping defenses honest, spreading the ball out, Garrett Wilson knifing around all over the field. You've got a decent wide receiver room overall that's going to be stretching the field. Rodgers familiar with some of the components, getting to know the other components in the offense, having a running back that he can turn into the next Aaron Jones. And the fact that he'll have room, Breece Hall, to navigate open spaces, kind of catch a football in the plane, and have this ability to do what Aaron Jones did in open space. It's a lot more conducive to a first, week 1, week 2, week 3, first, month of recovery, getting your feet wet. It's going to be amazing for him. It's the best environment he possibly could be in. Number 2, off of that one argument, is that the defense is the best defense or the second best defense in the National Football League. And I don't think people realize how much better they're going to be this year than last year because they didn't have an offense to support good field position. They were on the field constantly, the defense. So now you're going to have the defense more rested. The Jets offense is going to be stretching the field, burning the clock, and the Jets defense is going to come in a lot fewer times onto the field and dominate in fresh fashion. Sauce Gardner's a year better. This is one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the National Football League. And what that's going to do is cascade back and forth, and they're going to help each other. The defense is going to put the offense on the field in good field position, and guess what happens for Breece Hall? If Breece Hall got, let's say, 10 carries in week 1. Having this offense and defense cascading and helping back and forth, putting the offense on the field inside the 40, let's say, and they've got a smaller field to work with. Breece Hall is going to have a higher likelihood at ripping off a 10, 15-yard touchdown or being handed the ball 10 to 11 to 12 times instead of 15, 16, 17, 18 in, let's say, week 7, 8, and 9, and having a touchdown in 50 yards could be very, very solid, a solid expectation for Breece Hall, even on a little bit more limited basis as they ease him in. If you put him in last year's offense coming back without the stretching of the field, with the bad defensive situations where the defense is having to try and set the offense up, they're constantly on the field, they're getting tired, and the offense hits the field 70 yards away from the end zone, guess what? Breece Hall, on his 10 carries, is going to be a lot less likely to score a touchdown and have good production on 10, 11, 12 carries. So he could trip and fall into 100 total yards and a touchdown on more limited usage in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4. This is an absolute amazing situation. Breece Hall has the youthfulness on his side, the readiness and preparedness, and the situation to be the most ideal candidate to ever come back from an ACL tear since Adrian Peterson. I'm not saying he'll have 2,000 yards rushing like Adrian Peterson did. I'm saying that he can have as big of an impact for his team and have a successful rebound from ACL surgery the first year back from an ACL tear, given all the components that seem to be lined up to make sense and parallel Adrian Peterson's situation versus Barkley or J.K. Dobbins. Stop coming out here and saying, it's all the same, Smitty. You have an ACL tear, you avoid them. You aren't looking at it in a detailed fashion. And if you say that, it's okay if that's the way you want to approach it, but you are going to miss out on an amazing recovery season. And you might be okay with that because you will avoid some of the pitfalls. But I'm going to avoid all the pitfalls anyway because I'm applying logic to when and how and where to invest in a recovering player that's recovering from a torn, catastrophic ACL tear, and I'm going to land it without missing and misfiring on the other ones. It's not an all or nothing. It's not okay, we either invest in all ACL recovered players and get burned 70 or 80% of the time. That is a stupid way of looking at it. When someone says, Smitty, you got to avoid it. You're more times than not, you're going to be better off. I'm doing the better off thing as well, bro. I'm looking at it case by case. I'm avoiding Barkley. Boom, nailed it. Barkley was garbage the first year back. It is what it is. The writing was on the wall. Even he says it is what it is. That's the term of the week. And it was clear as day. J.K. Dobbins was a massive avoid walking into his first year back from an ACL tear. I nailed both of those. Javonte Williams is a very cautious player to approach right now. I feel like that's accurate. Breece Hall is different. If I was biased and I was just like, I'm going to back my predictions no matter what and be an idiot, then you'd have me supporting Javonte and Breece Hall equally walking into this year. Instead, I'm being objective. Instead, I'm telling you why it makes sense to believe in him versus Javonte. Until we get more information, then we can get back on board the Javonte train. But we need to objectively look at this situation over and over and over again. And objectively, this is the man. This is the guy. This is a third drafted player steal. You win a league if you draft Breece Hall in the third round as your third drafted player. You're still getting amazing value if you're taking him at the tail end of round 2, and you're basically getting bookend players at the 2-3 turn, and one of them is going to be Breece Hall, and you're going to be fine. That's win a league capable as well, because he has top 5 running back upside, because he has top 1 to 6, 1 to 7 overall upside, even coming off an ACL tear. Given all the reasons I just mapped out, he is a home run in round 2. He's a home run in round 2. He can win you a league in round 2. But because you can get him in round 3, you got to take that swing, because it's so much better for your odds of dominating and drafting a team that you have no business drafting, because you hit every pick out of the park. Every time you're on the clock, you say to yourself, who's got the best upside and least amount of risk, or the ratio, the combination, the best risk reward versus reward relationship? Who has the best one? It's Breece Hall. If you're sitting in round 3, it's most likely Breece Hall. Now, do I like Gibbs over Breece Hall? It's close, and that's just how much I love Jahmyr Gibbs. We love him a lot. Phone line is open. If you want to dial into the show, let's do it.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Okay, phone lines are open. I'd love to discuss any one of these topics with you, whether it's Isaiah Pacheco, which we have right here on screen, and we went live on that earlier. He says, I will absolutely be ready. Or if you want to discuss the Breece Hall situation, where I'm telling you, you are in potential win a league mode the moment you draft this man. Let's go to the super chats real quick before I answer the phone calls real quickly. Let's go. Super chat number 1 is going to be this one from Wayne Solo. Wayne Solo says, just got Breece at the 4.4 in a best ball. Love the discount because of the overreaction Oscars out there. The overreacting Oscars are absolutely our friend. And Scott's on the line. Scott, be quiet real quick. I'm still going to go through these super chats and swing over to you. But Scott is one of the best people you could have in your draft, because he's petrified of Breece Hall. He's petrified of Isaiah Pacheco. He's petrified of all these players that potentially people are drafting too high, and you got to be worried. And you're able to steal away Breece Hall because you got scared Scotts in the league, and that's amazing. And Scott is doing his thing, his part. We need scared Scotts in our leagues. It's important. Where would you draft Breece in a 12-man non-PPR? In a non-PPR, bottom of round 2 with a smile on my face, Isaac. Appreciate your $2 hauler. But if you still could get him in round number 3, top of round 3, 3.4, 3.3, you might want to roll the dice if you're drafting, let's say, 2 or 3 picks before the turn. Let's say you're drafting it at 2.10. Then you might want to take Breece at that 3rd round spot if you believe this news is going to kick him down a little bit, or the news yesterday about landing on the PUP. Tough to know if the 23 mile per hour thing is going to hit news wires enough. I haven't really seen it. Like, Adam Schefter's not really reporting on it. I don't think I've seen it on his. This is like a local beat writer type stuff. Are gonna be reporting on that. I'm looking at Schefter right now. Breece Hall hits the PUP. Where's Shefty talking about Breece Hall? Where's Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport talking about Breece Hall running 23 miles per hour? Maybe they circle back to it. I know the Washington Commanders sale has been dominating a lot of the tweets and news right now. And by the way, let's give a round of applause to the Washington Commanders, new ownership that should really turn this organization around and make this man Jahan Dotson and Sam Howell and Bieniemy in this whole situation vault up and become one of the more exciting situations walking into 2023. I think Sam Howell could be that guy. I think Dotson could be that guy. Let's do a standing ovation for the Washington Commanders in that situation, and the Harris Group, who now comes in and gets to turn this organization around finally. Okay. Real quickly, let me get to these super chats, and I'll answer the phone lines. Phone lines are open right now. Isaac, appreciate you. Breece Hall to the moon. G Money with a $5 hauler. Hey, Smitty, my biggest concern with the Jets is their O-line. Where do you rank that O-line? And will have a big part? Look, let me put it this way, G Money. I don't think the O-line is a problem at all. Like you say, your biggest concern is the O-line. I think it could be a top 10 offensive line in 2023 without a single hesitation in my mind. Why do I say that? Why can't I say that? Because we're measuring the offensive line off of having no quarterback, no quick release quarterback, and they're stretching the field. How many times does a quarterback like Kurt Warner come into Arizona with a horrible offensive line? All of a sudden, the Arizona Cardinals have zero offensive line concerns the minute Kurt Warner stepped out onto the field with his quick release and spread out offense. Solves it. Immediately solves it. You're facing different schemes with Aaron Rodgers under center than you are with the rotational garbage that the Jets could throw out there. And I'm not saying Mike White's garbage, but Mike White got hurt and they had a garbage situation constantly rotating in there. They didn't stick with Mike White. They put Flacco in well before they'd even trust Mike White. Mike White got hurt. There's all kinds of, over the last couple of years, been a disastrous carousel at quarterback, musical chairs at quarterback. And to judge an offensive line at all based on that, let me tell you something. This is going to be the number one defense in the National Football League, even over the Niners in 2023. This is going to be a top 10 offensive line in terms of run blocking and in terms of the pass. This is going to be a top 10 offensive line in the National Football League. And it all stems with Aaron Rodgers immediately fixing it. Immediately, just like I told Hugh Jackson, former Browns coach who came on my show and kind of crapped on my Jamar Chase prediction and that the Jamar Chase drafting would protect Burrow more than drafting Penny Sewell. And he said, whoa, Smitty, you're telling me drafting a receiver helps protect Joe Burrow more than drafting a lineman, Penny Sewell? And I said, yeah, coach, indirectly. No. What did the Bengals go ahead and do? Made the Super Bowl, won the division. Sometimes an unrelated couple degrees of separation, drafting or acquisition, can improve indirectly the offensive line more than addressing the position directly. And I'm not saying they didn't address it. I'm not saying that they aren't going to be healthy. I'm merely just saying the adding of Aaron Rodgers under center makes this offensive line times 10. What it was and what it was capable of. Not to mention the defense being better because the offense is better and having the field position better, which is only going to feed right back into the productivity and effectiveness and efficiency. So Aaron Rodgers is going to make this offensive line rank in the top 10. Plain and simple. They're going to be spread out. They're going to be throwing the football. Aaron Rodgers dumps off to his running backs. You've seen Aaron Jones over the years be so successful. And so it's game on, bro. It's game on. It's game on. It's a great question, G Money. I have negative concerns about the offensive line. And we've got TM42 saying thoughts on CBS Fantasy having Ken Skywalker as the 25th running back. Take a lap. If CBS has Kenneth Walker as the 25th running back in fantasy football, bro. And that's one of the words. If that's true, I can't confirm that's true, but I trust my boy TM. Thoughts on stacking Wilson and Breece? I think I asked this a few days ago, but don't remember. I love the idea in best ball, and I don't mind the idea one single bit in redraft. I don't know that I would love like London and Kyle Pitts. That would be a stack and redraft I would stay clear away from because I feel like there's some sort of, it would be this player or that player versus both players. In the case of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, they're in a high potent offense, very productive, and there's going to be no limitations to Breece Hall based on Garrett Wilson's production. And both of them, more times than not, will have very good games together. I have no problem banking on the Jets' offense is what you'd be doing in that situation. You just don't want to draft two wide receivers from the same team in a redraft or dynasty setting. Best ball is influencing too many people to stack and redraft in dynasty. Stacking gets you nothing in redraft and dynasty. Nothing. You have no better advantage owning Burrow and Chase together than owning Hurts and Chase together in redraft and dynasty. In best ball, you do. It doesn't always mean it's going to absolutely benefit you, but there is an advantage of having to get less things right and all the different correlations, but you still could win a best ball tournament with Hurts and Chase over Burrow and Chase. The only reason why we love this pancake stack so much,
the stack above all stacks. It's time to drop the pancake emojis in the live chat.
The reason the pancake stack is so important and amazing and still my favorite stack of all time, probably moving forward, is because I think Chase will be the number one wide receiver in fantasy football in 2023. I think he has 15 plus touchdowns, the most capable wide receiver in the league currently. Marvin Harrison Jr. might get in this mix too, but currently it is Jamar Chase is the most capable wide receiver of getting 20 plus touchdowns in a single season in the coming 4, 5, 6 years. I don't think he'll do it on the regular. I think he'll be between 15 and 20 plus. I think that the 20 plus will come on occasion, but there is no player in the National Football League that has a more likely chance, in my opinion, at the wide receiver position of pulling in double or 20 plus touchdowns, 22 touchdowns, 21 touchdowns. I think Jamar Chase has 15 plus touchdowns this year, 1,500 plus yards, 110, 115, 120 receptions. And I think Joe Burrow throws for well over 42, 43 passing touchdowns alone, runs a couple in, and could arguably be that 50 touchdown total, score in terms of rushing and passing at some point in the next 1, 2, 3 years with the locked in 40 plus potential every single season. And so me saying that stack and redraft,
The stack above all stacks.
This stack is vital not just because they're together, because individually they're my potential number one at both the positions. That's why the stack has the power it has in redraft. It's not because stacking actually does a single thing for you in redraft or dynasty, and sometimes it can hamper you. And people need to separate best ball strategy from redraft and dynasty in that sense. There isn't a lot of difference between best ball and redraft in some areas of it, but in that area it is very different. It's worlds apart, so make sure you know that walking in. Okay, I think I'm done through all the super chats so far. If anybody has a super chat, please drop it. Let's head over to actually Marsman Wayne Solo has the advantage over Scared Scott because he's got a Marsman card. So Marsman Wayne Solo, you are live on the show, pal. Scott, please wait your turn. Marsman Wayne Solo, go ahead. He purchased this, get in front of everybody, getting line card. Fast pass card right here. Go ahead, Wayne Solo.
What's going on, Smitty? Yeah, so about the offensive line, they're getting Mekhi Becton back, which we haven't seen him yet. He's supposed to be really good. They're getting Elijah Vera Tucker back. So I wouldn't be worried about the offensive line for whoever asked that question. Zero.
And I didn't even want to address the injuries. I wanted to merely, and I did say injury, but I'm saying I wanted to merely stay on point that people need to understand the correlation between quick release and having a quarterback and judging an offensive line when there's no quarterback there. It's like judging, like I always give the example, if you're a banker, at a branch, at a local, bank, and you go to work one day and you have one of the highest volume banks in the nation, let's say, and you got one teller and one banker and a line out the door. Are you really going to judge that bank on their ability if they literally had one person in there? It's like, I just don't understand how people come to conclusions. And G Money, this was not against you. I love G Money. It was a great question, but the people that come down hard, you asked the question. You didn't say the Jets are going to have a horrible offensive line. That's what I'm addressing, G Money. I love G Money. G Money to the absolute moon. To the moon. What I'm saying is when somebody tells G Money, hey, Jets are going to have a horrible offensive line. Look at last year. These people don't know what they're talking about. Sorry, go ahead, Wayne Solo.
So another thing is that, because they want to, and I gave you the super chat talking about how I got him at the 4.4, I got him in the 4th round, and this was actually today. But what people don't understand is that Breece is a top 5 pick if he didn't get hurt last year. So we're already getting him at a discount in round 3, and now potentially round 4. And so you got to look at it in terms of that. And really last year they eased him into the offense. He didn't really do anything the first 3 weeks. So even if they did put him on the reserve pup, and he missed the first 4 weeks, or if they ease him into the action and he doesn't play much the first 3 weeks, it doesn't matter because he was already on his way to being running back number 1 last year, arguably.
Yeah, and
let's
keep in mind that the game he got injured, he had 4 carries, one of which he got injured on. So you could even take away and say he got 3 carries, right? He had 3 carries essentially for 70 yards and a touchdown. So, and I know some are going to say the explosion might not be there, but I disagree. He ran 23 miles per hour today in practice. The cutting, even this video that you can see, I'll try and put on my Twitter in a little bit. This video, he's gingerly making the corner on this right here, as he should be. He doesn't have a reason to do this hard cut right here. He's trying to get his legs under him. But Breece Hall is going to, putter step, at times. He's going to try and get his explosion back. And there's nothing wrong with not cutting, in week 1 as hard as you would cut in week 7 or 8. And he's still going to figure out a way to catch a pass in the flat and take it, 18 yards down the field. And having that total 80 yards, and then because the offense is going to live inside the red zone, again, set up by the defense, in my opinion, number 1 defense in the National Football League, setting up Breece Hall and the Jets to be inside the 20-yard line on a lot of occasions. Breece Hall is going to be able to putter step around and just get himself in the end zone and have 60, 70 total yards in a very light work type of afternoon. He's set up beautifully to have a slow start, but still have production. And even if he just had, let's say, 8 points in week 1, which would be disappointed, I think, to a lot of people. A lot of people would be like, man, I want, 50. But even if he has 8 points in week 1, 12 points in week 2, 9 points in week 3, it's enough that you're going to be fine. And at the end of the year, he still, even with a slow start, could be the number 1 running back in fantasy football. Like him and Bijan and Gibbs. Honestly, I think him, Bijan, Gibbs, and a couple other people, like CMC if he stays healthy, obviously, are just going to be in a dogfight for being the top running back in fantasy football walking into 2024. And I do say that without much hesitation on Jahmyr Gibbs being inside that conversation, because Eckler lives in that conversation and has lived in that conversation for years now. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have such an explosive rookie year. He will be in the conversation of being a top 5 overall player walking into 2024. And real quick, Wayne, I'm going to come back to you real quickly. We got an 814 caller. Who's this? I'm going to go ahead and put you on hold here, but what's your name, pal?
Joel, what's going on?
All right, Joel, hang tight. I'm going to circle back to you. Scared Scott's been waiting, and then I'll come back to you. I got Scuba Steve after that. So, Joel,
hang tight. Good, man. No big deal.
Yeah, hang tight. Scared Scott, what are you scared about right now?
Come back. I'm using the restroom.
Come back to, okay, put yourself on mute for goodness sake. Okay. All right, let's go to call back. I'm not going to put you on mute while you're on the can, bro.
Finish him. Call terminated.
Put me on. He doesn't even put himself on mute whenever he says he does. So I don't want any of that, any part of that. Joel, you're live.
Oh, what's going on, man? First off, I just want to say, man, I want to give you your flowers real quick. I found your channel a few weeks ago, dude, and I've been watching you, and you got a hell of a lot of good things to say and a lot of good insight. I love the production quality that you're putting on, man. Just doing all that by yourself, dude. Definitely got to give you your flowers. You're putting on a good show.
Thank you. Appreciate you. We do what we can to be the best show in the world, in the universe. And I think we do a damn good job. I think if anybody finds us, even if you disagree with me, 90% of the time, like some people do in here, I think you still find a lot of quality and value in this show, even with the differing opinions, the phone lines, I hit news differently than anybody. This 7 p.m. show, which will become an 8 p.m. show permanently starting August 1. This 8 p.m. show Eastern, which will be 5 p.m. my time, which is just way more easy for me to do. And it sounds like everybody loves the 8 p.m. change for the most part. But, I consider this 8 p.m. show, this soon-to-be 8 p.m. show, a news show. Like when someone says in the comments, oh, someone said you fantasy guys don't understand any whatever the other day in my comments. I take so much pride in being an NFL analyst as much as I do a fantasy football analyst, and I've done so for 20 plus years. I was on NBC and CBS Sports Radio for 19 straight years on the longest running fantasy football radio show in the world. It went 23 and a half years, I believe. And I was on it for 19 straight years before the pandemic took it out. But I take so much pride in being an NFL analyst almost before I am a fantasy analyst, to be honest with you. And I take so much pride in that when people come in and say, are we drafting on this show? We never draft. I'm never doing I shouldn't say never. I rarely ever do a mock draft or a live draft or any drafting on the news show, because I want people to count on the 8 p.m. show as their news source. This is where you come to not have news just break necessarily, because no one breaks it originally but a handful of people. But when news breaks, I want you to be able to come in here and say to yourself, I know that I can get Smitty's breakdown and analysis on what is just broken, and I'm going to come in here and get my, get the interpretation of Smitty and his crew and the followers and all that. Hang tight real quickly, Joel. 805 caller, who's this? You're live. I'm going to put you on hold, but I want to enter you in the system here. What's your name?
Tamian is like Damien, but with a T.
Okay, Tamian. All right, Tamian, hold on one second. Let me put you in here. All right, Joel, go ahead and ask your question, and I appreciate the flowers, and I appreciate you being a first-time caller. And
yeah, man, of course, dude. I just love how you run the show. It's like all the little promos and stuff that you make for all the players, and listening to you talk with like the little megaphone and shit, man. I love it, dude. It's hilarious. But basically what I was calling in was about Breece Hall, dude. Like, I loved Breece Hall, like at the end of beginning of last season. And, seeing what happened to him last year, dude, was an absolute shame. But this year, man, I mean, I guess I'm playing Scared Scott this year, dude, because I don't know. I've stayed away from him. I haven't drafted him in maybe a handful of leagues that I've drafted. And I've drafted probably 200 some best ball leagues on Underdog so far, this off season. But I don't know, man. I just can't feel it with Breece Hall in the third round. Like, if he was being drafted down where Javonte Williams, was going this year, I would 100% be on board. Dude, hell yeah, he's a league winner at that, at that spot in the draft. But as third round pick, when I could get Jonathan Taylor, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, one of those guys that, for sure. And Nick Chubb, I mean, he's a completely different story this year. I think he's going to go off.
Well,
being drafted around those guys is what makes me hesitant.
So first of all, I'll say that I want to appreciate you and, your take. You came in with respect and everything, so I'm not going to send you on laps or, scream at you because you have a differing opinion like I sometimes do with Scott.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say this, you should have just as many concerns about Nick Chubb than you do Breece Hall. And I'm not saying that Nick Chubb can't explode, because I'm saying there are concerns about Breece Hall, but he's going to explode. So respectively, I'm saying that there's an ability for Chubb to explode. But Chubb scored not one single rushing touchdown in the final 6 weeks of the season when Deshaun Watson returned. The moment Deshaun Watson returned under center, he did not score one single rushing touchdown. And you have to correlate those two things because of the way Deshaun Watson plays and vultures and the flow of the game. But he had good yards per carry. He had good yardage. I still like Nick Chubb, but all those players you named, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, you said a couple others. Those are all second-round players.
Pollard, Jonathan Taylor.
Pollard's falling maybe to 3.1. JT's a second-round staple. Everyone but Pollard is a second-round player. Breece Hall falling into round 3 kind of qualifies into a different bucket of running back. So if he climbed up and cemented into round 2, I could understand your argument. I would disagree with it. But it doesn't mean that, you might not be right. I think the part that you're having a struggle with is that time and time again, the injured ACL recovering running back does not have a good year one. And as I explained in so many ways, you got to take it case by case. You can avoid all ACL recovering players altogether and avoid a big significant amount of disappointment likelihood that you'd have. But if you want to cherry pick and successfully do it, you have to look at the 3 components, like I said, readiness, which he's 100% way ahead of everybody that you can even compare him to, and has the Adrian Peterson readiness walking into his ACL recovered season. Number 2, you have the situation, like I said, and then number 3 would be being youthful. And he's got every one of those knocked out of the park. And the fact that we're seeing him run 23 miles per hour, cutting on the field back in June, cutting on the field obviously in July as well, cutting and then running 23 miles an hour, that should have you feeling so much more confident than Barkley, who barely cut at all walking into week 1 as a top 5 overall player. And so Hall going in the third round respectively is low risk as I think you can get in his situation. And I would just urge you to take the gamble in one of your leagues, and maybe not all of them, but I think that his situation's gold, bro. His situation's gold. And I think he's going to be to the moon, and I think everyone's going to be like, wow, this is – soon you're going to hear he looks like he didn't even tear his ACL. I've said that since January. I told everybody in December and January we would hear that he's way ahead of schedule. This is before anything really broke on it, so this is just conjecture on my part. I said he'd be ahead of schedule, and then news started breaking, a month or two later, he's ahead of schedule, like way ahead of schedule. Then I said that eventually, we haven't heard this part yet, but I've been screaming this all offseason. We're going to hear terms like he looks like he didn't even tear his ACL. He looks better than before. He looks stronger. We haven't heard those things yet until today. Running 23 miles per hour is the first step, I think, in hearing some positive reporting. But I would just urge you to take him in one league, or at least if you do best ball, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty, Joel. Just draft him only in best ball. Like if you want to stay away and redraft in Dynasty, so be it. But take some gambles and shots on him on a $5, slow puppy draft, which we'll do tonight on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty, or we'll do a $15 weeklies. Weeklies would be perfect for you because you only need them to explode in 1 week. Every single week is self-contained. And you win $20K if you ever win any individual week, and there's no adding of totals across the season. It's all individual weeks. It's like 17 individual leagues with the one team that you draft up front, and that'd be a perfect player that you want to believe in, but you're scared of injury. You draft him in the weeklies. Let's say he doesn't get unleashed until week 5 fully. Well, you can win week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8. So try that. Hey, Joel, hang tight real quickly. I'm going to circle around the phone line. You can ask another question in a second. I'll keep you on the panel here if you don't mind. Let me go to...
Yeah, that sounds good to me, man.
Let me go to Ron Navy, who's a Mars man. So Ron gets to jump in right in. What's up, Ron?
I do, and I need to know from Joel. Joel, what part of PA you from?
I'm actually like an hour below Erie. Like if you know right around kind of like where Meadville, Pennsylvania is, that's right about like where I'm located at, yeah.
You know where Warren, Pennsylvania is?
Oh, hell yeah, I know where Warren is. I used to play baseball out there, Legion travel baseball.
That's my hometown, brother. That is
my hell yeah.
All right,
so, hey. From a neighbor to a neighbor, all right? From same territory. Don't worry about Breece Hall.
Cool.
Take Breece Hall. Trust Smitty. He's dead on this. Don't fade Breece Hall. I mean,
honestly, dude, he's pretty much convincing me. Like, because today I'm pretty sure the news broke today, but that's the first I'm hearing about him running 23 miles per hour. Like, honestly, that's some pretty damn good news. Like, because if you looked at J.K. Dobbins, like when he came back, like even after the couple games that he come back,
no burst.
Just watching him, like there was a breakaway run that I saw him, take off, and it just looked like he had like 100-pound weights, strapped to his back, and he just couldn't get, to full speed. But Breece Hall definitely does seem kind of like an anomaly.
Hey, keep in mind, keep him
kind of convincing me.
Hey, keep in mind.
They make us smart in northwestern Pennsylvania, right? We're smart guys. I mean, you said you've already got 200 drafts in Underdog. I've gotten like 430 right now. So
damn.
So keep
Joel.
going, brother.
Joel.
And you're the reason I called in tonight because I heard the 814 area code. That's my area code. Even though I live in Florida now, I kept my 814 area code number. And
look at Ron.
So.
Look at Ron.
All right, I'm done.
Hey, Ron, hold on one second. You can drop off if you need to, Ron, but hold on one second. Joel, the other thing I'll say is that you also got to look at rushing styles too. Like J.K. Dobbins is very, very reliant on hard cuts and being that really elusive on his cutting and changing direction, type of movement. Whereas Breece Hall is definitely a one cut and go. I'm not saying he can't be shift directions. He's amazing at that. But he is very much, his knees are over his feet, meaning he's not necessarily all about cutting. He's very good about going one direction. Think of him like Lev Bell. Remember Lev Bell in his prime? I don't know how many of you even played back then. Some people are new to fantasy too. But Lev Bell was the most patient runner. Lev Bell was a genius when it came to patience, and he literally just like have his hands on his offensive lineman and just kind of feel out the gaps, and he'd choose when to explode through it. Breece Hall's very much got a style where he's going to be able to plot around a little bit and not have to do as hard a cutting. And so it was a lot harder for Barkley and JK, I think, given their playing styles, to come back than it will be for Breece Hall, who's going to cut. He's a good cutter. He's a guy that can plant and go, but he is very much a north and south guy, and that's not a knock on him. It's just when I did my evaluations of Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, and I went back and forth, admittedly, as to who would be the better NFL running back at the end of the day, and I said both of them. They're both potentially generational talents, and I still believe that to my core about Kenneth Walker. But I did give an assessment of Marshall Faulk, Barry Sanders type of movement for Kenneth Walker. He's very north, south, east, west, all over the place. Think of him like Forrest Gump. He's running this way. He's running this way all across the field. Then he gets to the sideline. He runs this way. Kenneth Walker is all over the place, navigating to an open plane, an open space, finding the most open and best pathway to the next part on the field, then to the next part on the field. Think of Kenneth Walker as a magnet toward open space. He's sitting there. There's more open space to the right than there are to the left. Kenneth Walker's going that way. He's going that way. He's going backwards. Breece Hall, while it's not better or worse, Breece Hall's very much cut. He's gone. Can you catch him? Probably not. That's Breece Hall. And so for me, looking at Breece Hall versus JK versus Barkley, he is the most likely of the three to be able to skate by a little bit while he's getting his ability and trust back of cutting hardcore. And Aaron Rodgers is the best thing that could ever happen to him, because look at Aaron Jones year after year after year. So Breece Hall could be literally sitting there, delayed route that he's going to run, just break off, catch a football and take it 15, 20 yards, run out of bounds. There'll be a lot of opportunity for him not to put a bunch of abuse on his knees, right away. Like, he's not going to just take 25 carries up the gut. He can literally run the ball 10 times and catch 4 passes in week 1 and be very, very productive. Real quickly, let me get these super chats out of the way, and that way I don't get behind on them. We got Andrew sitting here with a $5 hauler in a 10-man PPR snake draft. 2 QB, I get first pick. Do I go Justin Jefferson or Mahomes Allen? So 10-man PPR snake draft, 2 QB league. I don't know how much more I can emphasize this, Andrew, and I'm not sure if you've seen this before, so if anybody's watching, if you're in a Superflex league, and you said 2 QB league, you might mean Superflex. 2 QB league is different than Superflex. If everybody could put themselves on mute if they're on hold, because I got somebody that's like, it sounds like they're at a machine shop right now. Just hit mute if you could. Andrew, if this is a 2 QB league, my guy, that means it required 2 QB league. If it's a super flex league, that means you have a 1 required QB, and most likely your super flex will be a QB. Either way, but even more so if it's an actual mandatory 2 QB. If you don't take a quarterback and you've got a top 6 pick, you are punting your season away. You have been given a gift of dominating your super flex draft by getting a top 5 or 6 pick overall. If you get Fields, Burrow, and on up, you're absolutely smashing your draft from the onset. And my number one, and it's not the only way to win. There's so many ways. There's 100,000 ways to win. My favorite approach is to grab an Aaron Rodgers or Love in round 4 or 5, as late as you can get away with it. And then, consuming the running back and wide receiver and tight end positions in 2, 3, maybe 4, depending on the flow of quarterback. You have to be astute and on your toes as far as when to grab that second quarterback, because you could screw yourself. Sam Howell's a good emergency, parachute if you get screwed on Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. But if you botch not taking one of the top quarterbacks and you're given an opportunity, you're just punting away your opportunity, just absolutely punting it away. You cannot take Chase or JJ, and Chase is my number 1 wide receiver anyway, but you're totally okay to take JJ as the number 1 wide receiver, but not at number 1 overall in a super flex. Andrew, appreciate your question. And the next question here, which 3 tight ends do you like most for fantasy this season? Not Kelsey. I have a video on this. Go watch the tight end video where I choose 3, 4 tight ends. I think 4 tight ends outside of the top 10, because almost every single season, a tight end that is not top 10 ranked climbs into the top 5. And I identify some of my 4 favorites, and there's others. There's guys like Musgrave and Laporta, like we talked about, Ron and everybody on the show when this video broke. Laporta is an amazing choice later on. But my 2, if I had to pin it down to 2 tight ends that could be top 5 capable, it's Kincaid, who's got he requires a little more patience because he could be slow moving out the gate. Not necessarily, but could be Okonkwo. Okonkwo was number 1 in the National Football League, or number 2 in every target and yak yards per target category across the board. He literally outperformed Travis Kelce in half of the categories and was at least number 2 in almost every single category in terms of targets, yards per target, all those stats that make him a glorified breakout, and you can have him in double-digit rounds. So appreciate you dropping that super chat. We got Terry Roberts dropping a super chat here saying, Smitty, the number is 602-635-3664, and believe it or not, that spells 602 NFL dong, and we're talking about a bell, okay, a bell that you're gonna ring, the dong. That's why we got this little bell inside the phone number.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
602-635 NFL dong, D-O-N-G. Dial in if you would like to partake. $5 hauler from my boy Thomas, who says Hendon Hooker got put on the PUP and could be there a while. I put him on the IR. Gonna pick another QB, Brissett or McCoy. QBs are Love, Hooker, Bennett. I would probably say give me Colt McCoy, I suppose. I love Stetson Bennett and the fact that you already have him. Take a look at Mike White, who's potentially going to get run at some point. You could always look at Clayton Tune. You could always look at a couple other rookies. O'Connell might eventually get some starts, but I think Colt McCoy's good because you're going to get some starts out of him. Brissett's interesting, and he's definitely one of the better mediocre backups in the NFL that could get in there. But Hendon Hooker probably not used this year, coming off the ACL tear, and he's very much nowhere near ready to go. And the team has no interest in moving him into the lineup anytime soon. He would be a 2024 and beyond project for them if they decide to try and maybe plan life without Goff. But Goff's going to have a big year, so it's going to be a hard thing to do coming off of 2023 because I think the Lions are going to be in a dogfight for the division win against the Chicago Bears, who people just don't give any credit whatsoever. And Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers are going to be a surprise as well. I mean, that division's crazy. Anybody in that division could win the division. It's a really, really good division. Let's see here. No Hunt. I'm with Swaggy. Nick Chubb in 2023. Look, just real quickly on this one. Don't think that Kareem Hunt leaving opens up the door anymore to Nick Chubb because they like their RB room a lot. What's the guy's name? Jerome Ford? Or no? What's his name? I'm blanking out. Is it Ford?
Yeah, it's Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford. They like him a lot. They like him a lot, and they could very well give him as much production as Hunt was getting. So I don't know that I would look at that as like an open door necessarily to more work. And I'm not saying Nick Chubb is not going to explode. There's footage of Nick Chubb squatting that 8,000 pounds where the bar looks like it's going to snap and destroy everybody that's nearby. It's insane that these guys try and squat with that much weight on a bar. I don't know that those bars are meant to bend like that constantly though. They're meant to bend a little bit, but good Lord, I don't know if anybody saw that footage of Nick Chubb squatting today.
Yeah,
with the amount of weight on that. They had the guys on each side just to make sure the bar didn't break and just to hold the weights in case anything happened. Sometimes I think these NFL players put their bodies at risk with some of these workouts and things that they don't necessarily need to overdo. Like when Camaro was pulling that, what was he pulling, like a tractor or something one time, and a bunch of weights, weight set or whatever. It's like, what are you doing to your patellar tendon, ruptures that you could have from that kind of stuff. But I think Chubb could have a good year. I just think there's reason to be concerned about Nick Chubb not scoring a single rushing touchdown, walking out of the season. I think I got the super chats in order, and I'm going to circle back around the phone lines. Let me just make sure I got them all covered. I believe I do. If I missed anybody's super chat, please let me know. Let's go over to Scared Scott, who was on the toilet earlier, and we had to hang up on him.
I was taking a coffee piss.
Okay, go ahead.
I would have talked to you if I was on the toilet.
Go ahead, Scared Scott, and tell us what you're petrified about now. What are you petrified about now? Breece Hall? Are you still scared?
I'm not. No, I was the last 3 redrafts I've been in. I've drafted 1.7, and I was going to take him at 3.7, but he kept going at 3.5 twice, 3.6 once. But now with this one, if you recall, about 5 weeks ago, it came out that he hit 22 miles an hour. Now it's 23. So that's extremely positive for me because at that level,
hold on. 22, 23, that's a difference of 1. You're right, Scott. That is positive.
23 is a lot.
Hold on 1 second, Scott. Scott, hold on 1 second. Let's calculate this. There's a solution to this problem. It's not that hard. Go ahead, Scott. Okay, so you like Breece. We're good with Breece. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, now, the movement head is the key. So he definitely looks like it. So I can see taking him early third now.
Yeah,
but that's what I was calling in for.
Well, I appreciate you being on board of this one, Scott, and not being petrified like you were about Pacheco earlier on the other video when Pacheco is looking like an absolute monster in the making, and you kind of embarrassed yourself a little bit, Scott. You kind of embarrassed yourself coming in. You could have said, I don't like him as much as everybody else, and I would have left it alone, but you literally came in and you said, hey, Smitty, hold on, Scott, hold on. You said that if you start Pacheco other than with an injury or a bye week, your team sucks. That's what you said.
It does.
That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing.
And because if you're starting anybody in your starting lineup in a redraft it's going to have multiple games of 12 and 40 and scores you 4 points, you're in trouble.
What makes you think that, Scott, when he was a rookie last year, not anointed the starter until the end of the year? Do you really think Pacheco walked? Hold on a second, Scott. Do you really think Pacheco walked out of 2023 in the playoffs where he was dropping loads on the field? Do you really think he walked out of 2023, Scott, not anointed the starter between the tackles in an offense that can still feed McKinnon?
What is to make you believe that he's going to get 17 to 20 carries a game?
What do I believe? Okay. Let's take a look at his numbers again, Scott. They used it. Did you not watch the playoffs?
At the goal line.
Did you not watch the playoffs, Scott? I don't think you did. I don't think you factor in the NFL playoffs, which show you what momentum a player has walking into the next season. This is a rookie running back that wasn't used until week 10. And you're coming in here talking about season stats with a rookie that wasn't really getting touches until week 10. And I get you feel like he's not going to get 12-plus carries a game. He's getting 12-plus carries a game, Scott.
He's a nice back that he never had 1,000 yards in college. In fact, I think last year's 800 was the most he's ever ran for since high school.
Scott, look at the numbers in the playoffs. Look at the numbers in the playoffs. Scott, look at the numbers in the playoffs. That's all I'm asking you to do right now.
One big drive to close out the half. And it was tremendous. And it was a great running.
This guy averages 5 yards per carry in 20. He averages 4.9 to 5 yards per carry in 2023. And if you look at his carry totals in the beginning of the year right here, weeks 1 through 8 with the bye week and then week 9, you look at weeks 10 on, there's a stark difference. There's 4. Look at Scott, look at the double-digit carries he got from week 10 all the way through week 16.
They aren't stacking boxes against him. They're not doing anything.
And you think that's going to change?
You could draft me for a game, and I could average 3 yards carry for the.
So what's the problem, Scott? What's the problem? Nothing's going to change. I can't.
There's upside to him. He isn't going to get. He's not going to be.
Who
the
says?
guy.
Who says you?
He doesn't.
Who says you?
It's their offense.
All right, hey,
Their
look,
offense
I don't mind
offense?
if someone on here has an opinion that parallels Scott's. I would love to hear it. Does anybody want to speak on Pacheco here?
I mean, I'll say something here.
Who's this?
I think what Scott's not kind of factoring in is the fact that, he's playing on the Chiefs. Like, dude, the way that Andy Reid dials up those plays, dude, like, he manufactures plays for his players. Like, look at what they did last year without Tyreek Hill. Dude, the Chiefs are like.
I all that, but there doesn't appear to be any kind of indication that they're going to give that man 17 to 22 carries every freaking week.
The Chiefs have always kind of been like the team
Scott,
that wants to have like
Scott,
one guy as their
Scott,
guy.
I just showed you. I just showed you the stats. Scott. They're right on screen. I just showed you. Why do we have no indication what you said he's going to get? How many carries? Look at his carry. Scott, look at his game. Oh my God, this guy's not listening. Look at his game log, Scott. It's right in front of your face. What do you mean you have no indication they're going to give him carries? From week number 10 on is when he became the starter, Scott.
There's no indication that they're going to increase him to the necessary amount of work for
It's right in front of his face. It's right in front of his face. 16, 15, 22, 14, 13, 15, 14. All while he had a broken hand. He had a broken hand, and he had a torn labrum, and he had double-digit carries for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of which all were over 14 carries, Scott. This guy's a 5-yard per carry monster. He scored 4 touchdowns in that span.
Say he goes from
but
5
back
to
in
10
college, Smitty, back in college,
he's going to give you somewhere between 4 and 6 points.
4 and 6 points.
I think you're living in the past a little bit, Scott.
You're high.
Hold on.
You're high.
Hold on. Ron Navy dropped a $20. Ron dropped a $20 hauler to send Scott on a lap.
Alert. Super chat alert.
Games are going to be
the truth. What do you mean, Scott? What do you mean it's the truth? What do you mean it's the truth? You don't have the crystal ball in front of you. Number one. Number two. What do you mean it's the truth? The truth is right in front of you. You're running at the mouth right now, saying he's not going to get the carries. The carries are right in front of you. You're not even looking at the screen. 16, 15.
Let me at him, Smitty. Let me at him.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, Smitty. This is Doc.
Hold on, Scott. Hang tight. Let me go over to the Patrick and then go to the Doc, who can maybe talk some sense into you. Look, I've a couple of us have gone to school a couple times. Doc's probably taken the most college. Maybe Doc can get through this, man, with a little teaching. Let's go to the Doc in a second. Let me go over first to the Patrick, and we'll have the Patrick trying to explain it. And if not, we're going to use a little education approach. Go ahead, the Patrick.
First things first. There's a stat. Since Mahomes has since his second year in the league, he has produced a top 15 back. Whoever his running back is a top 15 back, whether it be CEH, whether it be McKinnon, whether it be Pacheco, whoever's going to be a starter. You go back 2 years ago about the evolution of the dang Chiefs offense. When Mahomes was going through that stint where they was doing 2 deep safeties and cutting off Tyreek Hill his last year in Kansas City, Mahomes took his next step as an NFL quarterback about taking what he could get. And that's also when McKinnon reemerged. When McKinnon reemerged with them. I'm telling you right now, if you look, even as a rookie 6th round last year, he was getting over double-digit carries, and he was getting some work. He'll get over 15 touches a game this year because he is the clear number one back. And whoever the clear number one back on Kansas City, since Mahomes has been in the league, has been a top 15 back. So I don't see what the argument is here.
He doesn't have an argument other than he's scared. And because
it's 15 carries.
I think he's kind of living in the past a little bit.
And scores you 6 points.
I think we need to send Scott a Mickey Mouse hat.
Scott,
Crazy to
Scott,
a guy can do that.
Scott, I don't mean to be so blunt, but if you keep repeating the same thing over and over, it's adding no value, and I'm going to hit the hang up button on you. You can't keep saying he's going to get 6 points.
The part you're ignoring.
You can't keep saying he's going to get 6 points over and over. You're killing the vibes of the show when you're repeating lies on the channel over and over. He had Scott. I'm going to say it one more time. He had 16, 15, 22, 14, 13, 15, 14, 9, 8 carries to finish out the year. Okay, and then if you look at the playoffs, he had 12, 10, 15. He's a double-digit carry lock moving forward. Double-digit carry lock. On top of that, he scored 1 touchdown in the playoffs on the ground. He had a 5-reception game with did he have a touchdown receiving? I don't have that cut off here. Did anybody remember if he had a touchdown receiving in the playoffs? I cut it off. This guy is a lock for a touchdown every other game and double-digit carries. And he showed heart and determination and grit. And the fact that you can't see he's one of the toughest runners in the National Football League, whether he's got the size to support it or not, he doesn't care. Like Geno Smith, he ain't writing back. If anybody's doubting this man in terms of grit and ability to run the football, this guy is a double-digit carry lock. And if you think he's not going to get targets because McKinnon was just getting absorbed them left and right, you don't understand that rookie running backs need to get eased into pass protection. There's no way you're leaving Pacheco out there in year 1 in the toughest offense in the NFL to pick up. The toughest offense in the National Football League to pick up. The playbook is insane, Scott. Insane. This is the toughest offense to learn. There's no way you're leaving a rookie out there as he's learning it to protect Patrick Mahomes on the regular. They eased him into things. It's a miracle that Pacheco got into the lineup in an Andy Reid system who ignores rookies a lot of the time. And there are times where he does believe in them, like Hunt and in other situations. But Andy Reid is definitely loving this kid, or he would not have given him that opportunity. And if you think he's not walking in and getting a significant more reception and target total, you are living in the past, bro. Talking about 6 points a game. Are you out of your mind? 6 points a game, Scott?
Nothing has changed.
Oh my God.
And Smitty, if I may, it isn't like he had Gabe Davis proficiency. What was it, like 14 catches on 17 targets? That's proficient for a rookie 6th-round pick.
Bro.
And like you said, an Andy Reid offense, it wasn't like they threw it to him 25 times and he only caught it 5. He had like 14 catches on 17 targets.
Yeah, this is insane. Let's go over to the Doc real quick. Doc, talk some sense into him. Goodness gracious.
Hey, everybody. I'll be honest, in some of the points I wanted to make, you guys touched on. I'll say this, Scott. Let me ask you a question. When you say double digits, it sounds to me like you're thinking more on the high end of double digits. Where if we look at where Pacheco is going,
let the Doc talk, Scott.
20
Finish him.
Scott, hold on. Doc, you talk. Scott, I'm going to hit the hang up button if you interrupt Doc. Doc's trying to prove a point. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, so let me just say this about Pacheco. We don't know what Pacheco's going to be. One other point that I was going to make was he was drafted in the 6th round. He's a rookie. He's on the Kansas City Chiefs, and someone I can't remember who, running backs that played in that system are top 15. So he, regardless of how Pacheco plays, at the ADP he's going, he's a safe pick to take if you draft well as your flex. Heck, if you get him as your running back 4, that would be amazing.
He's in the 6th
I'm
round.
not looking at Pacheco. That's pretty good. Damn good, actually. But I'm not looking at Pacheco and saying that, okay, he has to get 20 touches to prove himself. And to be honest with you, over the last couple of years, since Kareem Hunt has left, I don't think they've had a running back that even runs the ball 20 or gets 20 touches since he's left there. But that doesn't matter because the offense is so diverse and so what's the word I want to use? They're able to adapt on the fly. I mean, look at what Andy Reid did with Juju Smith. Juju Smith doesn't get that kind of contract from New England if he doesn't play in Kansas City. I mean, people had Juju written off, especially after he was, quote unquote, supposed to be a wide receiver 1.
And bro,
I don't even need Pacheco to go out there and touch the ball 20 times. What if he ends up being like Tony Pollard, where he can touch the ball, let's go with a number like 14 to 18 times a game, but he has the potential to hit a home run for you maybe twice, maybe even 3 times a game. And on top of that, of those 14 to 18 touches, let's say he gets 5 to 8 catches. At a 6th round pick, that's a very serviceable running back. Now, if we really are being honest about this, you probably can count on one hand how many running backs in the last 2-3 years average 20 touches a game. I think people throw the number 20 out a lot, but I don't think people really understand how many touches that is per game for a running back.
And also,
regardless of whether he's catching it.
And also, Doc, just to emphasize that what Doc said's true. They haven't had a running back that is warranted grabbing a hold of the starting job and making their decision to rotate them a tough decision to make. They've been rotating Clyde, and they were hoping Clyde was going to be that guy. They drafted Clyde at the tail end of round 1, so they wanted him to be that guy. And Pacheco, to have Pacheco on a cheap deal, he's a young rookie, very late draft pick. This is very much Andy Reid's style to be like, I'm getting my RB, the cheap way, and they're going to utilize him. I'm not saying Pacheco's got great dynasty value, that he won't get banged up because he plays like George Kittle, in terms of just, or Gronk, in terms of just throwing his body to the wind. Like this guy would sever an arm and go back out there and play with one arm. Like he had a torn labrum and a broken bone in his hand, and none of us knew it. For how long did we not know it? He didn't care. He didn't cry. He didn't complain. He didn't come out of the game. You know how many players would have not played the next week the moment they broke a bone in their hand or tore their labrum, and he had both of them, and you couldn't even tell? You couldn't even tell? Yep. And Ron said this last show when Scott came on talking about this, is like, he did what he did injured, severely injured. He did what he did. Imagine what he's going to do with another year of learning the offense, which I said earlier is the toughest offense in the National Football League to learn. Damian Williams back in the day was quoted saying that the first entire year he didn't know any of the plays because he couldn't pick it up. Not because he's a dumb guy. It's because it's so complicated. And he'd literally go in the huddle, even in the playoffs when Damian Williams didn't. Remember when Damian Williams had such a good playoff run in Super Bowl that he was drafted really high that next year and he busted on everybody? Damian Williams.
You just took my next point.
Yeah, but Damian Williams said that. Damian Williams said he'd go into the huddle. Even at the end of the year, playing there the whole year, he'd go into the huddle and he'd go, blue 65, hatchback 7, flux capacitor 8, on 3. And he called the play out, and then he looked at Damian and go, run a 5-yard hook. And he literally have to tell Damian Williams where to go, what to do individually, because the offense is so complex. So you need to factor that in when you start running your mouth, Scott, about last year and that he's getting no receptions and targets. He's literally learning this offense. the entire offseason as the starter. And if you think he isn't the starter walking into next one, bro, we need to get you in every single one of our leagues, Scotty, because this is not going to end well. Hey, real quickly, yeah, Doc, finish it up, and then I got to do some supers and then cycle around the phone line. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to touch on one other thing with Damian Harris, because that was the person I was going to talk about.
Damian
next.
Williams.
When he went off during that Damian Williams, thank you. When he went off during that playoff run, they won their first Super Bowl. You were right. Everybody started drafting him the very next year. Isaiah Pacheco did something very similar this year. Now, could he – I hope he doesn't do what Damian Williams does and bust. But here's the difference. Damian Williams was going probably early third round, fourth round.
Big difference.
Now you're telling me I can get Pacheco in the sixth round. There's less risk. And let's just say he doesn't give you the numbers that you would hope for a guy getting 15 to 18 touches. If you drafted well enough of your first 5 picks, that's not going to hurt you as badly as drafting Damian Williams did the year that he was going as early as he was. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Spacula.
So why not take a chance on Pacheco?
A lot less risk. Let me get these supers out of the way. Hang tight, callers. Hold on one second. Check Sniping Sons of B League after the stream. Thank you, Spacula. I'm sure Spacula is throwing some lowball trade offer at me in one of these follower leagues that we started a long time ago. On the air, I traded Travis Kelce in this Dynasty League for, what was it, 3 or 4 first-rounders, I forget, was from Spacula. He wanted Kelce so bad, and I made him pay the price, but I'll go check and see the lowball offer that Spacula sent me, and I love Spacula. Spacula to the moon. Appreciate Spacula. He's such a good dude. Ron Navy, appreciate your super chats earlier. Let me go back over to this screen and see what I have here. Hold on. Let me see. Where is it? We got Isaac saying, never doubt a running back with dreads. That's Fantasy Football 101, says Isaac. Isaac, appreciate your super chat, my guy. Bieniemy was the problem, not Pacheco, says Isaac. Again, Isaac dropping more knowledge. And Isaac might be right. We don't fully know some of the details around that, but it sounds like Bieniemy was like, he'd take Pacheco out and he had some decision-making there. Let's see if that ends up playing out. I think Andy Reid loves Pacheco, so this is good news if Andy Reid's solely making that decision. We need people like Scott to win our league, says Mr. Frost. Scott, we do want to thank you for your role in all this, to be honest, because you're helping hold Pacheco's ADP quite arguably in round 7, 6, 7. I don't think he goes in 5 ever, so if he falls, he'll fall in 7.
I haven't been in a redraft yet where he's gone put outside of the 7.
Well, right. So 6 to 7 is a home run. Who else are you going to draft in round 7, Scott, that has the upside that Pacheco has? Oh, wait, you don't see any upside. That's right. Okay, hold on. Nico.
For him all day long, and he's going around after him.
To the moon. Nico, appreciate your super chat here. Nico says, my bold take of 2023, CeeDee Lamb will finish as a top 5 wide receiver. With Zeke gone, the pass-heavy Cowboys will funnel targets to the franchise wide receiver on a contract year. My go-to pick, Chase, JJ, Bijan are gone. I will say that they're going to go more run-heavy than they ever have before, though. So when you say the pass-heavy Cowboys, we don't know if this is going to fully transform into a balanced attacker. Scott, are you interrupting me again?
Sorry.
Finish him. Call terminated.
Okay, I had to. I'm sorry. It's nonstop. And I'm getting a lot of X's in the chat. The chat wants me to knock Scott off for a little bit just so they can get a little bit of a break. But anyways, Nico, appreciate the super chat. Nico, are you still here? I think they still throw a lot. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to ball out. I really do. But do I like him at like 8, 9 sometimes where he goes, or 10? I prefer him as like my 12, 13 turn pick, which isn't that far away from that. So I don't mind this prediction at all. I love CeeDee Lamb. There's a reason we say get lambed on this show. I even have that somewhere here. Let me see if I can find the get lambed animation. Where is that at? Where's our CeeDee Lamb animation? I have it somewhere. I know I do. It's right. Where is it? It's right here.
Get lambed.
Okay, we love CeeDee Lamb here, so you're getting no objection from me, but I do love him like at the 12, 13, 14 overall territory. When I get him as my second drafted player at the top of round 2, I'm very happy. Love him though. He's absolutely a monster. Isaac dropping another super chat. What happens when Pacheco gets 17 to 22 total touches and he gets involved in the passing? Nobody is taking away carries from Pacheco, but he could easily get 4 to 5 of those targets that McKinnon got. And that's another point too, is McKinnon's 31 years old, and I love McKinnon. And I stand alone draft McKinnon like every single time I can, in double-digit rounds. I love McKinnon. But me drafting McKinnon over and over and over, probably having a top 10 exposure to McKinnon in some of these underdog fantasy promo code Smitty tournaments. And you can hit that link in the live or in the description of the video and sign up. It's in the description of every video, or use code Smitty. If you use code Smitty or the link in the description of every video I have, you'll get they'll double your first deposit up to $100. So if you want to draft with us tonight, you got to hit that link or use code Smitty so you can get that double deposit on your first deposit ever, and you can draft with us tonight. And I forget what I was saying. I was saying what was I saying? What was it? What was it that I was saying, guys? Something about Pacheco tonight, or no? I don't know. I think I got the super chats out of the way. Let me just make sure real quickly. But Underdog Fantasy, we're drafting tonight. Get ready for it. Never doubt a running back, says Isaac. I think I got all these super chats out of the way. Isaac, thank you so much. Oh, 17 to 22 touches. I think I was referencing this right here. McKinnon. So I'm drafting McKinnon in every single Underdog draft. I probably have the most exposure to, or top 5 exposure to him. And to be frank with you, it has zero to do with Pacheco. I think if Pacheco were to go down, McKinnon's value would increase because they would lean on him more as a running back, but it doesn't really affect his receiving game abilities. But he is 31 years old, and if McKinnon went down, conversely, you would have Pacheco get more involved in the receiving game. And even if McKinnon stayed healthy all year, this offense is on the field so much and potent to such an extreme degree. It's kind of like the Dalton Kincaid versus Dawson Knox versus Diggs and Gabe Davis example that we talked about yesterday. There's so much production and so many footballs to throw around. You really can't overfeed Kincaid because Kincaid's going to already think of it like you got 5 glasses on the table and you got a pitcher of water that can fill 7 of them. Like, you can only pour so much water in the Kincaid glass. You can only pour so much water in the Pacheco glass. And with these offenses, you have a pitcher of water in Josh Allen. You have a pitcher of water in Patrick Mahomes that has too much water in it to fill all these glasses. So for anybody to think that if Pacheco survives and succeeds, that McKinnon can't, or that McKinnon's really active in the receiving department, that Pacheco can't absorb 2, 3, 4 receptions a game, get out of here. So Isaac, appreciate your super chat. Let me get on over to some of the people that haven't talked yet. Doc, hang tight for me. Wayne Solo, hang tight for me. The Patrick, hang tight. Joel, hang tight. Ron, hang tight. Let's go to Tamian and then Scuba. No, let's go to Scuba Steve real quick and then Tamian. Tamian, hang tight. Scuba, you're up.
Hey, Smitty, what's going on, my man? Just wanted to talk to you real quick. I don't know how much time I got. It was about Saquon Barkley. So I guess like one of these posts on like Instagram that they cover like NFL stuff. It's called Undercover NFL. I guess Saquon Barkley on his Instagram he started taking like everything off from the Giants, like unfollowing them and everything. I don't know, like seems like it's like almost like a speculation as if he wants to get like a trade. I'm assuming it's probably like some type of like leverage tactic, I guess. To play that card that he might not show up or something. I guess I just wanted to get your thoughts, like, because like a lot of these athletes now, like they do stuff like that where they start like unfollowing like their teams. I guess like to try to put like things in their favor. So I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I think for the majority of my feel on this hasn't really changed too much. I think that he's pissed off right now, as he should be. We've talked about this enough. We don't need to necessarily get into this. I got a whole video if you go watch the Barkley video and last night's video too. We talked about this enough to not need to beat a dead horse on it, but the running backs are getting together. They've created a group, chat, a group thread, and they basically are going to take a big hard line stance against the NFL as best they can. But at some point, Barkley's going to have to make a decision, and I think he's going to make the decision that I'm going to say. but he could make the decision that I think Ron would say. He's going to have to make the decision whether he's going to actually hold out, save his body, and believe that a team's going to, give him maybe a bigger deal than he would have got with the deal that he was offered by the Giants. Or even if a worst case scenario, he gets the same exact deal, he misses out on the $10.1 million franchise tag money and still only gets the 2 to 3 year deal for about $22 million guaranteed or whatever. And at the end of the day, he loses $10 million, but saves his body and guarantees himself the $22 million deal. But at the end of the day, I guess I would just say this. I think that at the end of the day, he's going to want the $10.1 million. I think at the end of the day, his running back, community that they're banding together is going to support him and urge him potentially to go get his bag. They can still fight this fight while he's getting paid, and betting on himself as they're proving their point, as they're getting support from the public. And nothing would be better for the running back fight than to see Saquon Barkley over-deliver on what is going on. You know what I'm saying? So if Barkley goes out and explodes and the Giants are proven wrong, that they should have overpaid him, now they're, potentially going to lose him, and he gets to go, get his bag, I think that's going to be a very, very vital part of this situation. If he sits out, it does prove a point, but you still can't force the league to draft running backs in rounds 1, 2, 3. Not going to necessarily solve the problem initially. And I think that he's going to potentially put himself in a bad spot looking at Lev Bell and how his career got derailed. Looking at, when a player gets, raptured from the NFL through a suspension even. In the case of Deshaun Watson, he didn't bounce back very well. We're going to see how Ridley does. Ridley looks phenomenal right now, by the way. I think Ridley will be an exception to the rule. And Barkley could be an exception to the rule as well. But I feel like Barkley is going to cool off. He's going to make a lot of noise. I think he'll probably he's not even holding out because he's not under contract right now. He's technically just not coming to the table to sign his deal. So he's not getting fined. He can hold out. He can technically, if we want to call it holding out, he can sit out and not sign his deal for his up and to the 11th hour, and then he's going to come in, sign the deal, and immediately report. So therefore, he's not going to receive a single fine. Same thing with Jacobs, and make this as uncomfortable as he can for the team. But there's going to be a happy medium to where the offense starts planning some things without him, and it would be a shame if he came back and wasn't quite as involved. I'm not saying that anybody's going to replace Barkley. I'm just saying that he's not going to have some of the things down that he needs to have. He'll pick it up very quickly, I'm sure. But there's going to be a happy medium between making a statement and potentially putting yourself vulnerable to injury because you don't show up until the 11th hour. Because I can tell you right now, and Doc even said this earlier, and this is very true. I've always been a big proponent of this. The longer you hold out, the more likely you are to injury. That's just the bottom line. It's a fact. It doesn't mean that it's always going to come true. Doesn't mean a running back like Barkley can't stay fit and in shape and all that. But there's something to being out on the field, having the cohesiveness and meshing with your teammates and getting in a rhythm. And if you just come out there and get on the field, you are very, very much more vulnerable to injury, and that won't bode well for his potential, getting a long-term deal after the season. So there's a happy medium. It's tough to say where his mindset is. Him and Jacobs could together motivate each other and kind of fuel the fire into sitting out and making a huge statement and having the NFL totally support him. But that's coming at a cost because it still might not invoke a single bit of change, and he might not get any money, and that could be a tough spot for him to be in. If it's me, this is my final statement on it. And I don't really want to get into this because we did such a lot of content on this, and I think we covered it pretty well. Everybody got their opinion in, but I'll just say this. I'll say my opinion is this. Right. I would bank on him at the 2-3 turn all day long. Maybe not in every league because of the potential unknown and the potential injury risk. But I'll tell you this right now, Scuba Steve, and this is the way I feel about this topic. Saquon Barkley is a steal right now at the top of round 3 as people panic. The moment that he holds out all the way to the 11th hour, and let's say he comes back right around September 1 or right before or something like that, and then all of a sudden you've got a draft, let's say the next day, I'm fading Barkley immediately.
All right.
Why? Because he's going to climb back into the top of round 2. Now he has a lot of the injury risk that we talked about, the soft tissue injuries, like Doc said yesterday, the hamstrings, the quad, the calf, all these potential injuries that now enter into the situation. And because he's going to play for sure, people will draft him again at the 2.1 to 2.3 to 2.4 territory, especially off the buzz that he's coming back. People will kind of vault people a little bit more than they should when there's positive news. And given he's going to be now getting taken where we were getting him, but with injury risk, I'm out. So I'm in now at 2-3 turn value, and I'm out at the top of round 2 if we're talking a month from now.
All right. I was just gonna ask you, if he does like show up, do you think that there's like a chance that like if he's motivated like to play or anything like that he could try like if he's playing pretty good, like there's a chance he could try forcing himself out via like going into like the trade deadline, if for some reason like he's playing good and like there's like he doesn't like the direction that the team's going, because he already knows that they didn't sign him, so he's gonna be a free agent anyway.
Not likely, because he's going to be on a 1-year, $10.1 million deal. Like, no one has his rights. You're not going to trade. The only time a franchise tag player gets traded typically is when you franchise tag them, you trade them, but only in conjunction with a long-term deal that's announced immediately when the trade is processed. Meaning Devontae Adams gets franchise tagged. He's talking with the receiving team, the Las Vegas Raiders, and they say, okay, let's work out a long-term deal or we're not executing this. They work out the long-term deal. They shake hands on it. They announce the trade, franchise tag. He's traded. Minutes later, 4-year deal. So you're not going to get a team that's going to not only take on a player, that they're paying a significant amount of money in their mind at the running back position, at least. It's not big to us, but you're also giving up draft capital for no guarantee that you have this player walking into the future. So that's highly unlikely that there's any sort of trade that happens with a franchise tag player, that the deadline's passed. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure they can trade them. That's a great question, to be honest. A franchise tag player signed his deal. Is he still potentially tradable? I don't know if anybody has the rule on that. So many things are rarely done that you got to look them up again, to be honest. Let me go over to Tamian, who's been waiting patiently. Tamian, you're live.
Okay, Smitty. I just need help on a 32-man league. It's a super flex, just so that you can switch the quarterback out. But I didn't realize until you said it that stacking is not useful. And because it's a 32-man league, I couldn't get a higher stack without trading a ton of draft capital to get a higher pick. So I traded down, and I picked up Bryce Young. And I was going to draft Adam Thielen in the 5th round of the 32-man league. Do I need to get rid of Bryce Young?
Wait. Why do you need to stack? It's a regular redraft league. It's not best ball, right?
Yeah, that's the reason I called, is because you said that stacking wasn't useful, but I thought stacking was useful in redraft. I drafted Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, targeting Thielen because you have Bryce Young, that's no benefit to you whatsoever to target a stack like that. What if Bryce Young struggles? What if the offense putters all year long? There's zero. If there's no connection points in a redraft or dynasty, stacking does nothing. When we say the pancake stack right here,
the stack above all stacks.
Well, when we talk about the Burrow and Chase stack, we talk about it because it's our favorite stack of probably all time here on the channel, because these are two amazing players that we love so greatly on the channel. But number one, both of them can be number one at their position. And so the stack is absolutely amazing to draft because you're taking an offense that's super high potent. And when you stack in redraft or dynasty, it better be an offense that's completely loaded. It better be an offense. The reason it's so important to draft both those guys, let's say, and you don't need them on the same team, but it's because the reason there's no risk in it is because how often are the Bengals not going to come out and gunsling? Very, very rarely is Joe Burrow not going to have an amazing game. We saw it last year where he didn't have a good game in week 1, week 2 kind of puttered along. So there's always going to be risk of that in a redraft or dynasty setting. But with an improved offensive line, with Chase, healthy, with now Charlie Jones on the roster and Chase Brown drafted, and just a much better offensive line, we're probably looking at one of the most consistent offenses to produce production that we're going to see in the NFL in 2023. Same thing with Mahomes, same thing with drafting players on KC. Don't think of it like stacking in redraft and dynasty as much as consuming players in offenses that are always going to be dropping fire. Like, that's what it's about. But Thielen and Bryce Young, like, even in a best ball, I don't care about that. That stack is meaningless to me. Like, I'd rather draft Bryce Young and get a wide receiver I truly like that's going to produce consistently more often than worry about a stack and trying to hit on that. But 32, to put it in perspective, 32 league superflex is absolutely insane, bro. Just crazy. Thielen's not on my radar at all. I like Mingo more than I like Thielen. Thielen's an older player. Could be okay, I guess, but that's definitely, we're talking about Thielen and Bryce Young. That's going to be tough sledding this year if that's like something you're targeting.
Yeah, my question is, should I look to draft? Should I look to trade Bryce Young?
Well, I mean, what are you going to get? I don't love him in a redraft setting. I like him is this a dynasty league?
No, this is redraft.
Yeah, I mean, he could potentially be really, really good and show flashes of brilliance from a dynasty perspective. I'm excited about what could be there, but from a redraft perspective, I mean, I'd rather have Sam Howell. I'd rather have, much rather have a lot of the other rookies. I like not other rookie quarterbacks, but a lot of the other rookie situations or whatever. But I think Bryce Young's good. I think in a 32-team league, Superflex, he's a great player to have. But I don't know that you're winning a championship if he's your number one quarterback in a Superflex. And if it's a 32 Superflex too, there's so many people that aren't going to have two good quarterbacks. So it's not like you can't win. But what are your supporting players? Like, that's what matters. If you have Bryce Young and Thielen and you don't have like anybody else, bro, that's you're done.
It's a non-QB Superflex, so it's not like I have two quarterbacks.
It's a non-QB Superflex. Okay, so I wouldn't call that a.
So like when your quarterback's on bye week, you switch. You could just swap it out because it's 32 because you can't pick up another quarterback for bye week.
But Superflex means you could start two QBs. Right?
It just has a super flex, like instead of a normal flex, it's a super flex.
Yeah, so it's a super flex. That means it's a super flex. That's a super flex. That means it's not two QB mandatory. It's one QB mandatory with a super flex. And if you're starting two quarterbacks, you have a huge advantage. So your difference is a super flex, not a two mandatory QB. But who are your supporting players?
Well, no, there's no QB slot. There's no QB slot. It's just a super flex slot.
Okay, so who are your other supporting players? You got Bryce Young and who?
So I drafted Ramondre, Alvin Kamara, and Jahan Dotson.
Okay.
And I have another 4th-round pick coming up where I could get someone like Michael Thomas, Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams, or Damian Harris.
Keep going.
Maybe Elijah Mitchell, McKinnon, something like that. I don't know where I should go with that. That's what I'm asking.
I like McKinnon more than those options. I don't know if you've got other players that are potentially there that you aren't saying that we might be excited about, but I definitely think McKinnon's
like OBJ, Alan Lazard, Cortland Sutton, Elijah Moore, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. Nothing super flashy. Jameson Williams. Yeah,
Jameson's tough. Jameson's tough because it's a redraft and you're already like struggling to field. I like him maybe next round or something, but McKinnon feels like it's high risk, high reward. Like, I don't mind that McKinnon. That's pretty decent. McKinnon's pretty decent.
And do you hate the Thielen pick? Or
yes,
because that'll be my 5th-round pick.
Yes,
but I need to draft a wide receiver with my 5th round.
I don't hate Thielen, but I hate the Thielen pick when you're talking about McKinnon still being there, and absolutely.
Because I draft McKinnon this round and Thielen next round.
It just depends who's there. It depends who's there, bro. I don't think I'm barely drafting Thielen at all. So
it's like Thielen, Boyd, Mooney, Rondale Moore, Sky Moore, Rice,
Sky Moore's
Dobbs, Mingo, Zay Jones, KJ Osborne, Nico Collins.
Zay's okay. McKinnon's the clear cut, but later on, I don't know. You'd have to be on the clock and tell me. To be honest with you, Zay's pretty good too. Zay's pretty crafty, but that's a tough league, bro. All right, hang tight for me, my guy. I'm gonna circle back around real quick. Because we're going live in a little bit. I want to end the show a little early here, so let me circle around the phone line and get everybody's final takes, and then I'm gonna close out, and then I'm gonna jump off. I got the plumber here as well, so I had to go handle that. Poor Miss Smitty's trying to explain everything right now. Marsman Wayne Solo, final 10 seconds. Go.
All right, so somebody said, I don't know who it was, somebody said that the Chiefs have produced a top 15 back like every year that Mahomes has been a starter. That is false. I mean, we haven't had a top 15 running back since like Kareem Hunt. But, I mean, you go back last year, nobody finished in the top 15 between Pacheco, McKinnon, or Clyde. You go back to the first Super Bowl we won back in 2020. We didn't have anybody who finished inside top 15. I will say with Pacheco, I just, I would like him as my third running back, obviously, and that's obviously up for debate with other people. But I think he's a good value to where he's being drafted. Obviously,
I think one important point is that if you take Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Pacheco, McKinnon, and you start just one of them for 17 weeks last year, and you got to pick the one you want to start, and it was pretty easy to know which one was the more beneficial start. You had a top 6 to 7 running back in fantasy football. So like. Maybe that's what he meant when he said that. But yeah, look, it is what it is, as Barkley's been saying all week, and it's such a fitting phrase for a lot of this stuff this week. I think that 6th, 7th round, Pacheco's a smash. If we had to take him high in the 3rd round, like Doc said with Damian Williams coming into that season where he popped off and then fell flat, then it'd be a whole different story. All right, hey, I got to run, pal. Appreciate you, Wayne Solo. Call in tonight when we're drafting live on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. We'll be drafting tonight. All right, Wayne Solo, see you later. Scuba Steve, final 10 seconds, go. You got to go quick, bro.
Hey, Smitty, would you ever think about doing like a video breaking down of like early strategies where somebody wanted to take a Travis Kelce or someone like the early quarterbacks, how to like build out your team? So I feel like a lot of people that do like go those positions, like they don't really end up having like a good team like towards like the end. I'll try. Like, would you ever do something like that?
I'll write it down because Kelce's this is the easiest the easiest year to ever build going tight end early with Kelce, and I'll do a video on that. Appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, no problem, man. See you
later. Joel, final 10 seconds. Go.
I just wanted to say that I look forward to drafting with you, man. I actually was getting in a couple puppies last night and got surprised when I was sitting here and I was like, oh, shit, the fantasy football show's right after me.
Oh,
so I'm already in the draft with you, man.
Nice, bro.
I look forward to sniping you.
All right, I appreciate that.
Hey, before you let Joel go, don't let him go yet. Don't let him go yet, Smitty.
Right.
And you can kick me off right after this. Joel, what is your YouTube name and what is your Underdog name?
Yeah, what's your YouTube name, Joel?
My YouTube name is I got to change it. It's actually some stuff I used to do. I used to play this game and I was making some YouTube videos, but it's JRobGC and Team Energy.
Okay.
That's my YouTube name.
We'll look for you.
I just want to know if you're chat or not. So.
All right. Yeah. Rename it, Joel. Rename it something, Joel, and then we'll put you, Joel.
All right.
You want me to name you Joel? I'll think of a name.
What is it?
I'll think of a name for you, Joel. I don't know.
Think about it.
Yeah, I'll think about it. I'll come up with something. All right, Joel. Appreciate you.
Hey, Joel, what town are
boys.
you in? You Corey area or that area? Titusville?
I'm about 40 minutes, I'd say, 45 minutes from Corey. It's I'm just outside of Meadville, Pennsylvania.
Okay, around Linesville.
Yeah, Linesville's like 10, 15 minutes from me.
Okay, I got you.
All right, Joel.
What's your
Yep.
What's your underdog name?
my underdog name is LaDainian Tomlinson.
Attaboy. LaDainian
All right,
Tomlinson.
I'll look
That's
for
great.
you, brother.
All right, Joel. Appreciate you, man. Later.
All right, man.
Tamian, final 10 seconds. Go. You're out. Okay, later. Ron, appreciate. See you tonight, Ron.
All right, bye.
Tamian, 10 seconds.
Everyone draft Iowa State players because they're the best, especially Breece Hall.
All right, bro. Later. Doc, final 10.
Hey, Smitty, I was actually trying to tell you I got to go, but hey, appreciate you letting me be on the show.
All right, later, pal.
I'll call in another time.
All right,
Thank
later.
you.
Appreciate you. Later. We'll be drafting tonight, guys. Here's the link on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. Please click this link now and prepare yourself because if you have to sign up last second tonight, we're going to go live about midnight, maybe 12:30 p.m. Eastern, about 9:30 p.m. West Coast time. So if you don't click that link right now and jump in and sign up and get the app ready to go, you will not get into the draft with us, but you can still draft alongside of us. If you're a little delayed, just do a different draft. It's fine. Click that link now and get ready to go. But just so everybody knows, today's show, Breece Hall clocked at 23 miles per hour today in practice. Let the haters hate. He's on the active PUP, which they can take him off at any moment. It's a chess game in terms of just checking out other players on the roster and keeping everybody there as long as they can. And Breece Hall can move to the side on the active PUP by design so they can do what they got to do. Breece Hall to the absolute moon. He's 8 feet tall, for goodness sake. See you all tonight.
Breece Hall is 8 foot tall. He will always answer the mother freaking call. Don't let him fall. In the third, don't stall. Just give Batman the freaking football.
He's Breece. He's Breece.
He does a whole of a job. A whole of a job. A whole of a job.
Breece Hall, please report to the moon.
He does a hell of a job.